Alright guys, in this video we're going to be going over your Unit 2 test study guide. I'm going to be doing the even problems. So here we go. Number 2, we want to solve this system of equations by graphing. So let's graph this one. This one's nice and easy to graph. Y equals 4. When you have just a y equals, that's a horizontal line going through 4 on the y-axis. So that's what that one's going to look like. Now let's go ahead and graph the next one here. For that one, my y-intercept is -4, so I'm going to start down here at -4. And then I'm going to use my slope to determine the next point. It's negative, so I'm going to be going down 8 and then right 3. So down 8, right 3. I have to add to my graph here a little bit. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then right 3 would put me like right about there. Now we can go backwards the other way, which might be helpful. So instead of going down 8, right 3, I could go left 3, up 8, which would put me like right about there on the same line. Now the solution to this system is where they're crossing, which is right there. And so that is a value of x equals -3 and y equals 4. And that's the solution to the system. Let's go ahead and take a look at number 4. Solve the system by substitution. So with these types of problems, what you want to do is you want to find the one that says y equals or x equals. Identify what it's equal to. It's equal to 3x minus 10. And we're going to plug that thing I just circled in for y into the other equation. And so that's going to look like this. Now you'll notice that I plugged it in for y because that's what y equals. If I had one that said x equals, then I would be plugging it in for x. Okay. At this point, we're going to solve the equation. So here we go. We're going to begin by doing some distribution. Then we can combine these like terms together here. And we got a two-step equation here, so I'm going to start by adding 50 and then dividing by 10, and I end up with x equals 4. Now that's the first part. But I also need to find the y value, so to do that we go back to one of our original equations. I'll go with y equals 3x minus 10. And you're going to plug the answer that we just got in for the x. So I just got x equals 4, so I can replace x with 4. And there's my y value. So that's the substitution method for solving a system. Go ahead and move on to number 6. So it's another substitution question. So we're going to start by identifying where our y equals is. And there's that. And y equals -2x plus 3. So I'm going to replace the y with -2x plus 3. Once again, we're going to distribute. I'm distributing a -2 this time, so that will change the signs. Next, we're going to combine our like terms, and those cancel each other out, and I'm left with this. Now, whenever you end up with just getting a number equal to itself, that means that you have infinite solutions. If all the variables go away and you're left with a number equal to itself, that's infinite solutions. Now, just so you know, you could also end up with something like this, which is a false statement. That means no solution. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at number 8. This one we want to solve by doing the elimination method. So let's do that. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to pick a variable that we want to cancel. I'll go ahead and choose the y variables. I'm going to choose the y's. And I'm going to take their coefficients, the 2 and the 4, and I'm going to flip them. So I'm going to put the 4 on the top and the 2 on the bottom, and then I'm going to distribute them into the parentheses like so. The result of doing that will be these two new equations. All right. The next step after you flip and distribute is to pick one of the equations and change the signs. So I'm going to multiply the top equation by a -1. And that's going to give me positive 40x minus 8y equals positive 72. And the other equation is not going to change because I didn't do anything to it. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add straight down. So the 40 and the 14 can add together to make 54x. The -8y and the positive 8y cancel each other out. And then the 72 and the 36 become 108. From there, we go ahead and just solve this. 54x equals 108, so you would do that by division. And I get 2. So that's how we find the first variable. Now to find the second variable, you're going to take your answer, x equals 2, and plug it into one of your original equations. I'll use the bottom one there. So I'm going to replace x with 2. And from there, we just go ahead and start solving for y. And there's y. Okay, so that's the elimination method. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at another elimination problem here. This time I'll do the x's. So let's choose to cancel out the x's. I'm going to take the -4 and the 12 there. I'm going to flip them so the 12's on top and -4's on the bottom. And I'm going to multiply them into the parentheses. Same thing with the bottom row here. And that's going to give me -48x minus 12y equals -24. And then on the bottom, I'm going to get -48x minus 12y equals 48. Next step is to change the signs in one of the equations. So I'll pick the top one there. I'll multiply everything by a -1. And the bottom one will stay the same. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and just add straight down. 48 and -48 cancel. 12 and -12 cancel. So I have nothing left on the left side, so we'll just put 0. On the right side, 24 and 48 adds up to make 72. Those are not equal to each other. So notice we didn't get an x value, we didn't get a y value this time. And that means that in this case it's no solution because those two things are not equal to each other there. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our next one here. Just some review of our Unit 1 stuff, just graphing lines and whatnot. So how do you graph a line? Well, first of all, we have some missing numbers. When you have a slope, you should have a rise. When you're graphing a line, you should have a rise, a run, and a y-intercept. This is my y-intercept, and here's my slope. But my slope is supposed to have 2 numbers, not just 1. So it might be helpful if we fill in the missing number. Now, anytime your slope is missing a number, it is 1. So we have 5 over 1. is a good way to think of that slope. So I'm going to start at my y-intercept of 5. From there, since I've got a negative rise, I'm going to go down 5. And then I'm also going to go right 1. So down 5, right 1 puts me there. Down 5, right 1. Okay? And then we're good to connect our dots, and we've got our answer there. Whenever you have x equals a number, that's just going to be a vertical line going through -1 on the x-axis. So whenever you have a y equals, it's a horizontal line. When you have an x equals, it's a vertical line. All right. And then we got some equation solving review here. So we want to solve for x. So let's go ahead and start with our addition. You always want to do addition before you do the other things. Next, we're going to divide. And we end up with x equals -2. Let's take a look at another one here. This is a multi-step equation here. With multi-step equations, you generally want to do your distribution first. So we'll start by multiplying that -6 into the parentheses. Notice that this becomes positive 36 because we're multiplying two negatives together. The next thing after you do distribution is you'd want to combine your like terms. So these two terms are like terms that I can put together. (36 plus 2 is 38. So those go together like that. Next, we want to put the b values together. So I've got -5b on the left side, and I have positive 38b on the right. I like to move the smaller b. So -5 is smaller than 38. So I'm going to get rid of that -5 by adding it, which will cancel that out. And since I did it on the left side of the equal sign, I also need to do it on the right side of the equal sign. And so now I've got -6 equals 6 plus, and that would be 43b. And from here on out, it's a two-step equation where you start with addition or subtraction, then you follow that up with division or multiplication. So the subtraction here would be the -6 on both sides. And then divide. And so we end up with b equals -12 over 43. This does not reduce, so I'll leave it just like that. All right. Next, we want to write the slope-intercept form of the equation of the line that goes through those 2 points there. This is a three-step process. The first thing we want to do is we want to find our slope. And to do that, we're going to use our slope formula. But before we do that, it might be helpful if we label these points. So if I plug those numbers in where they belong, it will look like this. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And that gives me -3 over -5. And the double negatives there can cancel to give me just 3/5. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to find the y-intercept. And you do that by plugging in 3 things. You're going to plug in y1, m, and x1 into this formula here so you could solve for b. So my y1 is 5, my m is 3/5, and my x1 is 0. 0 times 3/5 is 0. And b plus 0 is just b, so I'll put b equals 5. The third step is to write the equation out, and that's our final answer. Once you know your slope and your y-intercept, you can write your equation. My equation is y equals 3/5 x. You put your slope there, plus your y-intercept, which is 5, and there's our answer. And then we have one more I think we'll do here. This one is the same question, but instead of giving you 2 points, I give you a graph. But it's really the same thing. You just need to figure out what the points are yourself first. So just pick 2 points off of the line. So I'll pick this point here and this point here. You want to pick points that you can actually find the coordinates for. So the one at the top would be 0, 5, and the one on the bottom here would be 1, 0. All right. So after that, everything's the same as the last one I did. You're going to start by finding your slope, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we'll label our points here. We'll plug in our numbers. Negative 5 over 1, we can write that as just negative 5. So there's my slope. Now we're ready to find our y-intercept. Once again, we're going to plug in y1, m, and x1 so we can find b. My y1 is 5. Slope is negative 5. x1 is 0. Now 0 times negative 5 is just 0. And then 0 plus b is b, so we have 5. And that brings us to our last part where we can write the equation of that line. We just take the slope and the y-intercept and put them in the equation. Y equals mx plus b. And that's the equation of that line. Okay? And I think that does it for us today. So hopefully that was helpful. And we'll see you guys in class for your test. Have a good day.